Apologies, councillors, staff, members of the gallery, press. We are running a little bit late from our dinner with our award winners from the Australia Day Awards. All great people. As I'm sure you all are too, that we've made them feel extra special. And welcome to those councillors who couldn't make the dinner too. Just like to welcome you to the meeting for Tuesday, the 23rd of January, our first council meeting for the year, 2018. And in the process, I'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today. It's a traditional land for the Kaurna people, and we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. And now we read you the Council Pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Please be seated. And next item is the declaration by members of a conflict of interest in any item on the agenda papers tonight. Are there any conflicts for any items? I don't think there were, but you can always check. On leave we have nil, and we're not, no apologies either, so thanks, everyone's here. Confirmation of minutes for the ordinary meeting of Council for Tuesday the 19th of December. Which I move we take there as a true record. Councillor Lee, wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
And Evans, wish to speak to it? No further debate? All those in favour? Against is carried unanimously. Sorry, did I see your hand go up there, Councillor Barnett?
Yes, I was trying to get into a seat.
That's okay. Just technically under the act.
Yes, I know. That's why I was rushing to get into the seat.
You did very well. Rushed just back. Perfect timing. I needed to check. Okay, item 5, the Mayor's report is as before you. No late minute corrections that I'm aware of. Any questions on the Mayor's report? No. Deputy Mayor's happy to move it, wish to speak to it. No. Do I have a seconder? To lead, wish to speak to it. Any further debate? All those in favour? Against is carried unanimously. Big month. For the first month of the year. Verbal reports from council representatives. Are there any verbal reports from council reps on our organisations or bodies? Okay, so we'll move on. Petitions nil, deputations nil. Motions on notice we have 2. First one, item 9.1. Councillor Evans regarding Christmas decorations.
Sure.
If you could stand and read the motion.
Sure. So my motion is that Council Administration consider modest and reasonable enhancements to our inventory of Christmas decorations that are placed in community spaces around Christmas time, and that an amount of up to $5,000 be provided in the current year's operating budget, adjusted through the 3rd budget review, to enhance our inventory of Christmas decorations. I'm happy to speak to it briefly.
And just note there's a couple of minor.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
So I guess just to talk about point 1, received a bit of feedback over the Christmas New Year period from someone in our community who was quite aggrieved at the lack of festive decorations, I guess, that were around over Christmas time. You know, Christmas means different things to all of us. The point is it's a time of the year where people are generally in a celebratory atmosphere. The current decorations we have that are placed in Barker Gardens are relatively old and tired. What I'm proposing here is very much modest and reasonable. So I understand in doing some work in preparation for this motion that historically we've built quite elaborate structures on the building and that it's been thousands of dollars every year to erect and then dismantle. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about very modest and minor items that can be placed in public spaces every year that can be used over multiple years and that really are just in keeping with, I guess, community expectations over the period. The second part of the motion, which is up to $5,000, the advice I've received from administration is that that's a reasonable amount to purchase things. Of course, this time of year means we kind of get them cheap as well, because where there's overstocked items, you can generally purchase them arguably cheaper than you can at other times during the year. And as we see tonight through our budget review process, we're currently in an operating surplus. And so what that means is that rather than this be put up as an item for the next year's budget, that it's an amount that's relatively small and insignificant given the overall operations of council, that it can be dealt with in the 3rd budget review as a matter of course. So with that, I move the motion.
Thank you, Councillor. I have a second. Councillor Barnett, can you speak to it?
Yes, simply because it will go through our budget process. So I had joked to somebody that I think my half a dozen or so items that were just sent through on the link, I hadn't realised that perhaps I should put it as a motion on notice, but never mind. Yeah, and I think some of the tired old ones were because they were the expensive old ones that used to sit above on council roof, which when I came back onto council, I think were costing us quite some extraordinary amount, 10 to 15,000 each year just to stick up on the roof. So they got put over in Barker Gardens, but I didn't have anything to do with that. But I have seen some people have a lot of selfies down there. Apparently there's a hole in one of them that you can have when they take selfies. So I thought, well, it's doing its job, I guess. So I'm quite happy. I thought there were some quite nice touches up around North Adelaide, where I assumed that it was the council and not the residents, had put all red Christmas bows all around the Christmas trees or the street poles or wherever. So it was just added to the festivity, and that regardless of what people's views are about that. So happy to let it go through to the budget process.
Just minor correction or point.
Yes.
Confirmation. This is not to go to the budget process.
Oh,
Your motion, councillor, is to spend this money post haste. Part 2.
Well, it is still a budget process.
Which would be. So, can you just clarify the financial status and purpose of the motion? Or deflect that to the director?
Yeah. Through the chair, in report item 13.6, we'll be reporting an operating surplus of approximately 336,000. Should this motion go through, that will reduce by 5,000.
Yes, so you'll report it to another meeting, but this decision will be to spend the money.
This financial year.
That's right, I just want to clarify that. Thank you. Now, there were some further speakers. Sorry, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, just very briefly, because that originally was one of the things I was going to say that I believe had come up now. But I thought I was led to believe, my question before I just say I support it totally, is I thought the stuff we did have, I almost call it stuff because it only sits on the corner, was worth $5,000, and then it was about 10 to 15 to put it on the roof. But the actual stuff we got is about 5,000 anyway. That's what I thought. So maybe later on might not be enough for a car that's doing faster than 25 kilometres an hour to see.
Councillor Lee.
I commend the council for the motion. It's always really good for us to get into to get our community into the festive spirit. I'm really happy with what we've got because it's at the end of my street, so it's really Christmassy. Now, I wanted to follow on from Councillor Harris about the $5,000 and how this will actually get you. And what would be really good is, instead of us upping the budget every year for Christmas decorations, is that we start getting our traders to get into the spirit and looking at ways of rewarding them for doing that, to encourage them to do it. Because we can only do small amounts with the little budget that we've got, but they could do extraordinary things outside their shops and draw people into the high street and get us into the festive spirit. So I'm happy to support the motion, but I'll be much happier if we could get our street traders to support us in this as well.
Thank you. Further speakers?
Sorry, just saying, Councillor Lee mentioned the $5,000. Could I just ask a question what that actually buys us? Because I mean, this isn't probably just going down to Coles and buying leftover baubles. It's something much more significant than that, because these are big decorations. So I'm just interested, is $5,000 going to buy us a 10-foot tree and that's it? I'm just trying to understand, we know how much rabbit sprayers cost us in playgrounds, so I just kind of give you a sense of what's going on.
It's obviously it has to survive other drills.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. Could someone answer that, See you.
Thank you, Mayor. We will investigate that. We have started having a look at seeing what is available. Provide that information for you after the meeting in terms of what would actually get $5,000. But we would certainly seek to try and partner with our traders to boost that so that we get a greater buy-in in relation to how the street looks versus just having one additional item that sits on a street corner.
Sorry, just because we're asked to make a decision on this tonight and in a couple of minutes we're going to have to vote on it, I presume that Councillor Evans was given some advice from council staff about what $5,000 would buy. Is there any way that we can just get a sense? Is it right? Is it 5? Because I guess the question that's going in my mind is, there's a couple. One is $5,000 enough? Or is it too much? And I don't know. So the question, Tom.
So perhaps just refer back to the advice which Councillor Evans is looking. Director, do you have any help?
Through the chair, we have asked around to say what can it buy us. We did talk about some ribbons along the poles. We did talk about some small ornamental type display like what we have in Mark Gardens. So right now we still get to firm up exactly what that will buy us. And Theo was talking about partnership with traders. So with the 5,000 investment, what can we attract with a larger display that we can get? Value for money.
Thank you. I can just add from the chair, the red ribbon things on O'Connell Street, we actually bought 2 per home. They were $5.95 each.
Quite a few ribbons.
The largest expressed in that realm was, I noted, with Mirth. But that was the season. Some other stuff, they'll clearly be probably discarded at the end of the season because the colour fades. So I would imagine you could do a lot with this depending on whether you want it to last more than one season. The previous stuff we purchased was meant to go up, withstand wind, last for years. It's kind of done that, but it was necessarily more expensive. So that, I'm not sure that helps, but there was an estimate provided of some sort.
Okay. Thank you. I'll accept that. I'm just, sorry, I don't want to labour the point. I am just wondering whether it's worth having an amendment which picks up Councillor Lee's issue about engaging with the traders. Because I think that's a really good point. I guess I'm just looking to see whether that would be in the intent of the motion.
Yep, happy with that.
So could I do an amendment, please, Mr. Mayor?
Always. Well, unless there's 2 others already.
Well, it may get some support, it may not, and I'll accept the decision of the floor. So number 3, it could be something along the lines of council administration work with Prospect Road traders to engage and encourage their contribution. You can't leave me down the garden.
Yeah, exactly.
Encourage their participation in decorating the street.
That sounds good. So, yes.
At Christmas time, I presume.
Well, not necessarily, but yes, at Christmas time. Street decorators.
Saying Network Prospect Traders, just so it's not.
Yeah. So can we just change Prospect Road to Network Prospect Traders? Well, it might be Churchill Road, may not throw also want to get to the spirit. So
well, too many trees.
Traders across the city.
And when decorating their premises, then might be better. Your amendment, Deputy Mayor, rather than.
Do you have both?
Is your intention that they decorate their shop front or that they...
I think pick up Councillor Lee's view about their premises, but I think it would also extend to the street. So we'll say their premises and the street. Yeah. So just see if that gets some support or not.
During the Christmas season might be...
Oh, sorry, I thought we had that on.
I'll now ask the mover and second whether they're happy to incorporate that. Councillor Evans. Yes, Councillor Barnett.
Yes, now it's been widened.
I'll now see the leader of the meeting, see if they're happy to incorporate. All those in favour? Against, it's thus incorporated, it comes to the motion. Anything further, Deputy Mayor?
I look forward to Christmas this year.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor
As the winner of the local elected members' Christmas light decoration competition, the last couple of years in a row, I'm normally very supportive of initiatives to do this kind of thing, but it raises a couple of questions in my mind. One of them is not so much about the motion, but it's about the process. It feels like it was a clever move to sort of recognise that it was a surplus and then come up with an initiative like this. And I wonder whether that opens up a precedence or a bit of a can of worms of that being utilised in the future. Maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe it is maybe it's just not a bad thing. Secondly, there's nothing sadder than a dismal little collection of Christmas decorations. It just looks it's worse than not having anything, to be honest. So I don't really think that $5,000 is going to go too far, given my vast experience with purchasing domestic grade, let alone commercial grade Christmas decorations. Well, I could hire them. I could hire mine out if you like. That might work. Thirdly, it does open up a few questions around, will we be bombarded by the folk on Galway Avenue saying, well, we want them on Galway Avenue next year, and will the people from not Clifton Street, the people from Churchill Road or Regency Road say, well, we deserve to have the Christmas decorations this year. So whilst I am probably going to support the motion, I think that we probably need to put a bit more thought into it as to what happens in subsequent years. So anyway, that's my bit.
Thank you for offering it. Any further debate? Councillor De Backer.
Chip in my 2 cents as well. So I think it's great that the motion's been raised. I do agree with Councillor Larwood. It's probably the wrong place for it. It should have been budget deliberations, because that's something that goes in consultation. And also, you've got to remember, it's going to be opposite a big hole. So where are we actually going to put it? So Barker Gardens, and we've got the excavation going on here. I'm really interested in the entrance to the city. Unfortunately, the 2 big Norfolk Island pines are not our property, but they're, could be fantastic Christmas trees. And I'm really interested in tree lighting as an entrance to the city. So if we shape this a bit more around the entrance to the city and saw it in a budget deliberations, I think I would have been more supportive. Look, $5,000 for Christmas decorations, I'm not going to knock that back. But I think it could be reviewed maybe in meetings to come.
Thank you.
Can I know.
Brief question, Councillor.
Yes, because I don't suppose I'm allowed to speak because we've changed it, is it? No. Okay.
You've already spoken.
Okay.
You can ask a brief question.
My brief question around it is, have we taken on board in our mental state that we'll have Christmas decorations, and the 15th we have terrific decorations? Where do they sort of thing Galway Avenue might be better?
I'll take it as a question around what's the existing protocols, because clearly we have that now.
Because we're going to be asking traders to do that.
So what's the day that we remove the Christmas decorations from Barker Gardens? Are you aware? It's certainly before terrific. Yeah, so I'd assume it's the same. Whatever we do.
Oh, within days.
Yeah. Well, I'll just speak briefly from the chair on this topic, because as some of you would know, I do Christmas decorations.
Yeah.
I made the devastatingly bad, in hindsight, decision to dispose of my previous Christmas decorations because they were getting pretty worn out. And then I couldn't find any acceptable substitute. So I managed to pull a couple of things together and have them up on my wall, which is a nice prominent wall. I thought I'd be encouraging other nearby neighbours to do the same. Last time I checked, I think by now the 10th year in a row, I think I've encouraged nobody else so far. So this is really hard. I'm not sure why people don't get into it on Prospect Road. Some do in the streets. Some of the Alpha Road does a really great job. There are a couple of others, but I'd really like to encourage the traders again. We've had previous attempts that have not gone far, but maybe we've got a different spirit in the street now, and we can get it moving. But I do take mine down within about 5 days, just after New Year's, I think, something like that. And then the terrific ones I put up on my fences, if you're aware, I do that as well. I did have someone remind me that there's 12 days of Christmas, and technically this was a person from the land of the United Kingdoms that says 12 days of Christmas start on Boxing Day, or the day after, so you should have your decorations up for 12 days after Christmas. But one year I was pulling them down on about, I think it was the 2nd or 3rd of November. And a polite passerby did imply that I was rather tardy in taking down my Christmas decorations. So there is this period of acceptance where it's okay to have them up. And then, of course, it starts to fade after a while. So I'm not sure what the date is, but there is a time that's really New Year's around there. The other thing is just a brief history. I think that the Norfolk Island Pines at the start of Prospect Road would be fabulous. It really would. But at the moment, it's just a it's probably being on council so long. You remember the last time we tried to do that in our own park, we set aside $15,000 to put lights on our own pine tree in Barker Gardens, and we ended up with about 3 light globes and it did glitter. And the reason was it took $10,000 to get the electrical supplies to meet the weather ratings, the safety standards, to be there all year because there was no power feed at Barker Gardens. And that left $5,000, which had to include the cherry picker to put up the steel frame to make the lights safe so they weren't being hit by the branches. And then, of course, left only enough money for 3 bulbs and a bit of glitter. And some of you might remember this $15,000. So I don't mean to dampen things. What I suggest is that we get into the spirit of this motion. We get the staff out there looking, and I'm sure if they find some opportunities, they'll come back to us in the budget time and say, you know, you want to do this well, this is probably what it looks like. And then we can have a decent discussion, which I do respect the councillors who've spoken to us about. There is a process for that stuff. But I'm very happy to have this discussion. But be aware, if you want to do this properly, it costs significant amounts of money. So we are here just tickling the surface, but I do agree we need to do something more than we're doing now. That's not for me. I think I saw Councillor Stan.
Yeah, I think one of the, I like the idea, and I'm another person who decorates our house at Christmas, and we have a street that gets into it and the whole place looks fantastic, and we have people driving up and down having a look at it. May I suggest that we investigate, one of the things that we did this year was we bought a few laser lights, and they were incredibly easy, and we just projected onto the front of the house, and I had put up about half as much of the traditional string lighting, and we just did some laser lighting and that kind of filled in the gaps. There's also an opportunity, maybe if we could go from one side of the road to the other and maybe skin buildings with light shows. And that would be something that could be easily taken up and taken down. It would be weatherproof. You just have it shooting from one side of the road to the other. But I think we should investigate projection lighting, laser lights, whether it might even be slides to change the skin of a building. And that would be something that would be incredibly easy to do. It would be weatherproof and would last you a year, or you could change it up with different skins. So.
Thank you. I think we're forming a Ministry of Decorations. I see some experts here in the crowd.
I feel it's something you're talking about.
Other than Councillor Evans summing up, that concludes the debate. Everybody's had a go at this, Councillor Evans. So.
Sure. I'll just be very brief. Look, thanks everyone for your feedback, and indeed it is great feedback. I absolutely agree. Getting the traders involved in this is really important. Getting the community involved is really important as well. It is hard, the $5,000 budget figure, and the whole process is kind of hard to actually conceptualise without any more detail. And when I did seek advice from the staff, it was very high level. You know, the key theme out of this motion, I guess, is that, you know, our current Christmas decorations are sad. I've certainly received feedback from our community that they're sad, and that, you know, if we as a council want to, you know, champion, I guess, this idea of how we can make the community more festive at the season, you know, what does that look like from how we look to do it? So the motion is as much about it being modest and reasonable, you know, not talking about elaborate, hugely expensive things, but something that does improve the current stock and current quality of what we do come Christmas time, and there's no better time than immediately after Christmas to reflect on that. So absolutely hear that the concept of some of the ideas and initiatives, lighting that we can look to do, community engagement that we can look to do, engaging the vendors that we can look to do, our businesses, and indeed, you know, respecting the budget process, what that looks like if it is going to be something more substantial. If we're talking about buying ribbons and very small items, potentially that could be covered in what I was looking to do here. But if this is part of a broader discussion, then absolutely its place is in the budget process. So in many respects, really, the motion is more the sentiment that we need to do more. If $5,000 is the wrong amount, I'm sure our staff will advise us of that as they investigate it further. And it's really the concept that, you know, come Christmas next year, hopefully we can have an engaged community and street vendors, you know, engaging in the process that we champion. So I commend the motion.
Concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against this, carried unanimously. Thank you, Phyllis. Councillor Evans. Councillor Harris, item 9.2, Board View Oval Master Plan.
Thank you. Council administration includes this consideration the conversation of the croquet grounds into 4 tennis courts within the draft Broadview Master Plan. 2, council considers the cost of implementation of converting the croquet grounds into 4 tennis courts up to the value of $250,000 ex GST in the 2018-19 draft budget deliberations. It's fairly simple. Those of you who have seen the master plan of the Broadview Oval, where we haven't really moved that far into it of anything happening. I today had a discussion, and I believe the track is going around there fairly shortly or at some stage. But here, this is a thing that I was approached at Christmas time about, particularly the tin lids that play the game from local kids. They get up there and we're just running out of courts and facilities. And the discussion has generally been around with the Broadview Tennis Club, but Colin Grove is next door and they have the same problem. And as today we saw, there would have been 30 to 50 kids playing there sort of stuff. So they've come out a big way, and football can still happen because we got the Oval and we got other ones. So I'm asking that this is fairly simple, that in the master plan that we've got, or draft one that we've got, that area of the croquet club has been marked down to be part of the tennis setup. Then the money is, thank you to the staff that found out for me, is basically about the top dollar if everything was paid and done the whole lot in 1 year. But I'm hoping if we can get it up, if we get it into the budget, even if we get to a stage of 2 courts and things like that. But I absolutely see a benefit to the community around there and our part in playing in getting that area up.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Standard, do you wish to speak?
I think it's a fantastic idea. We need to just start moving. I think the problem with the Broadview Oval Master Plan is there's a great danger that it'll just languish. We've got a lot on our plate, and I think the more small steps that we take, the more chance we've got of getting something done. It's I've been down there, especially during school holidays. The place is just teeming, and if we can do something that accommodates the kids and the families down there, we'll get it used. And a used space is something that's valuable for everyone. So I think it's a great idea.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Debate.
Look, just briefly, I'd agree with my fellow councillors. I think it's really important that we spend money on assets, and sometimes these assets aren't perfect, but they're well used and well loved by a community. So it's good to see the community benefit from this. Again, this will be in the budget deliberations, so this is no different from our elected member bids that we're sending through privately. So it's kind of just a bit of an airing of...
Sorry, you're getting nods. I'll take that as a formal question.
Right. Thank you, Mayor. Yes, that's correct. So we would include this in the budget bid so that you will look at this in association with any other budget bid. Councillor Harris was keen to see this formalised through the motion, which I think is puts it on the table very publicly that this is a project that you'd like to consider.
Which I think is fabulous, but there might be some tweaking around the numbers. So I'm not sure, again, what the club's bringing to the table, what other clubs have got submissions in. Also the fact that, I mean, from my recollection at the last meeting regarding Broadview Oval, the track, there was lots of questions around the track, and I don't think we've seen that come back unless I missed that meeting.
Is that a question?
Yes, it is, through the Chair.
Through the Chair, in February we have a council workshop on the issues that were raised at the last workshop regarding the track. So nothing's been endorsed by council yet.
Right.
The workshop will take place.
It sounded like it was going ahead, and I was just...
Dozer is not on idle at the moment.
Right. So, and again, around amenities, so I think certainly there's a lot of people use it next to the dog park for, barbecues and playgrounds, and the landscaping and the quality of the turf all needs addressed. So it might just be a bit of a balancing act in the budget process. So while I endorse the sentiment of upping Broadview Oval, where the actual dollars and cents get spent, I mean, obviously the club's made an expression, and I'd really like to do that if the money's there, but also there's other parts of the Oval that need looked at as well.
Any further debate?
I appreciate Councillor Harris's sentiment in this area, but I'm not happy about formally committing it to the budget process. My understanding is that it's just for consideration. It doesn't mean that we will approve it. But by formalising it like this, it kind of raises community expectations, and it raises councillor elected member expectations. And I'm just very much aware of the master plan in its totality. If we do this for this organisation, what's the expectation of the other organisations? And I'm also mindful that we have a very big project happening here, and this number of $250,000 just makes me want to scratch. So makes me very nervous. So I understand the sentiment, I understand the need for the project, but I personally would prefer not to support it, to formalise it within the budget process. I'm happy to discuss it in the budget process, but not
Thank you. And Councillor Evans.
A brief question from me. Probably about 2 years ago, we had a presentation from Tennis SA around Broadview Oval and what they were looking to do there in terms of upgrading the entire facility and their vision for Broadview Oval as a tennis facility. Has that been factored into our more recent discussions around how these tennis courts may be configured?
Thank you. Would you like to take that question? Directly.
Lotus.
Through the Chair, I'm actually meeting with a number of staff representatives of the Broadview Tennis Club and Tennis SA next Monday, so we'll discuss those issues at that meeting.
Sure.
I presume that'll be woven into the budget bid.
Description.
Yes. Thank you. Any further, Councillor? Councillor Barney.
Yes, look, I'm happy to support it, because one way or another we get our bits into the council budget process. And I'm sure, there'll be, has been implemented by the directors' meetings and that along with all these we get a report about it, get the information and the pluses and the minuses. And the rest of it, so I'm happy to support it.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Harris, just need to sum up?
Yes, always like to start with an apology for giving the impression that I said the running track was up and running. It was the discussion we had today that it was closer. I should have put it that way. And because there's some changes, that could be a possibility. Look, I didn't believe it anyway. I was jumping any sort of queue or coming around. I was saying this is a different thing because we passed, I don't know how many motions, but various ones about the master plan and tracks that followed. When I asked and got an answer of the cost, that's what it would be worth to do that whole thing with the forecourts onto the croquet club. But by doing that, it doesn't have any discussion of what Tennis SA might still offer, what the club has actually got money towards it and all that. So that is really just a ceiling of what it would cost, not actually what I would be asking the council to pay. It gets that discussion. When you have people, and it goes beyond the SA, when I went to Ireland, so 4 or 5 years ago even, that the discussion came with courts and what happened, particularly the dead court next to the tennis court. It's so long it's been left vacant. A couple of people came back to life and we played a bit more croquet on it and it went a little bit longer. But in reality, it's never been a properly used thing. The tennis courts are the same as the football and same anywhere else in the city, but it's a football. It's chock-a-block full of kids trying to learn. When they come and play their games on the Saturday now, the two other alternatives there's three other alternatives. They go over to Gillis Plains and another place, so our kids go over there to play home matches on the other side of Hampstead Road to a couple of places, I forget the name of the courts, but to a couple of places. And as you can see, and as today we saw, St Philip's has sort of been rekindled on the corner, and it has got tennis courts there, but they're not the best condition, and it's got a shed there that, I'm not raising asbestos again, that should be absolutely bowled over, and it's not there. So it's an important part that's happening in that little corner for our children and adults to play, but particularly the children. So I hope it gets up, because then it's on the system. By then there is some other discussions, and when we talk about it on the night, we can say, well, look, this mob might be able to help with this. I just get that there.
Okay.
I urge people to vote for it. Thank you.
Concludes the debate. All those in favour? Yes. Carried. Questions with notice or renewal? Questions without notice, are there any? Councillor Tobacco first and Councillor Stack.
Following on from our community assets discussion, I don't know again if I've missed it or it's coming to us, but the status of our current assets. So I just wanted to ask about a couple of assets and what their current conditions are.
First question, is there something coming back to us? Yeah. Director, on assets in general? Asset management plans, is that what you're asking about?
Well, no, so, well, yeah, asset management plans. So, for example, are things sitting vacant? Are they used for storage?
Buildings.
Yes.
Right, and lease.
Yes.
Director, is that coming back to us or something?
Through the chair, no, we don't have that information at hand at the moment, but upon request, we can find that information out for you.
There's probably two assets that I'd like to ask about their condition now through the chair. So the Memorial Gardens Pavilion, so we've got $250,000 plus playground and a pavilion that was designed to be used by the community. Can you tell me what the status of it currently is?
This is, the pavilion itself was upgraded, but you're talking about the rooms?
Inside, yeah.
The rooms, the old toilets.
Yeah.
And the toilets.
Yeah. Director, are you aware of the condition of those?
Through the chair, no, I'll take that question. Husband, get back to you.
It's because I was aware there was a budget meeting last year. But I just wanted to make that way. And also through the chair, can I ask what's the current condition of the old barn on St Helens Park?
French House. St Helens Park. It's CEO's eager.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll take the question. Councillor Tobacco, we are following up on those, in particular those two assets, following our conversations. So we're keen to provide council with an update in terms of some of the facilities that we do have within our council area and are currently under the CAN control and or lease of others to ensure that we get the best value out of that lease, and I understand that's the direction that you'd like to take. So we're certainly having a look at that within our organisation, and we'll be able to undertake a workshop with the council in the future. I'm just having a look at the dates in relation to our workshop schedule, given our current programming around the annual business plan and a number of elements. So we're hoping to get that back to you in February or March.
Very much. There was one more question, but it's just escaped me, so you're lucky.
I'll go Councillor Stevens.
Yes, my question is to the Director of the Infrastructure and Environment. Has there been any movement with regarding the anomaly in service supply level of hard rubbish with regard to the two-week promise and the 4-week contract? Director.
Through the chair, yes, thank you. We're currently investigating that still. Obviously, there's some differences of opinions that were provided in terms of whether it be the same service that we originally had to the contract that says 4 weeks. We're currently negotiating with East Waste about what that would mean to our how much it would cost or any cost at all if we went to a 2-week service level. Once we have the information, we'll provide that information to Council via a memo. Is there a timeline on that? Through the chair, I expect by the end of the week. Thank you.
So the back of that question come back to you?
It did. Have we got a budget line in the proposed budget for shedding and storage for council assets? Because I'm not supportive of storage in things that could be for community use.
So, CEO.
Thank you, Mayor. The Director of Infrastructure and Environment and I will be discussing that. Certainly an issue that we're aware of some interest. We don't currently have any budget allocated for an independent storage facility where service clubs and the like could hire a space in order to be able to put their equipment and or items. That would be potentially an additional service and or additional piece of infrastructure that we need to consider. So we will have a look at that within the organisation and identify if there's an opportunity and present some information back to you. But we currently do not have a budget for that.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions about that? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I'd like to ask how is council dealing with out-of-hours noise, particularly from restaurants and building construction and waste pickup? This is over 2 years of residents complaining and my emails, so I'm interested in how is council prepared going to deal with this?
Thank you. So have someone answer that. What are we doing?
Through the Chair, thank you. We're aware of issues that have been relating to both complaints from residents and from tenants of various facilities. Council has been liaising with both during the construction phase and post-construction phase with the owners and tenants of a particular building in question. We've received confirmation back from the owners of the building saying they've been liaising with tenants about their responsibilities and building conditions, building consent conditions. They provide us with a response to a number of issues, in particular deliveries occurring in the laneway whereby delivery drivers leave their vehicles running for extended periods, and they have reminded tenants that laneways are not to be used for deliveries. Noise from waste disposal bins are in a separate closed bin refuge room. They've advised tenants that bins are stored in a separate enclosed waste refuse and not simply banked up on the border of the rear laneway as previously undertaken. Noise from waste collection occurring in the middle of the night in an attempt to avoid disruptions surrounding tenants. At the commencement of waste collection, strict instructions were given to the collection agency that it was only be undertaken during the day. The collection agent had confirmed, but they've contacted them again to remind them of that. So there's a number of issues such as that where we're constantly engaging and liaising with the owners and the tenants about their responsibilities. Admittedly, there's been some pushback as well from some tenants about the attitude and respect they're receiving from neighbouring properties, but at the moment we believe that they're being addressed.
So the second part was about enforcement. What have we done, not just reminding people, when they've repeatedly not done the right things? What have we done about enforcement proceedings?
There are no instances where we've had to enforce any issues to date.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Barnett, anything further?
No, I shall ruminate on that. Thank you.
We might. Any further questions without notice? If that being the case, we'll move on to reports of committees, regional subsidiaries and other bodies. Sorry, just a 57 actually. Sorry, in item 1 and item 12.1 is a slight correction. In item 1 it should say Monday the 18th of December 2017, because we haven't yet had 2018 to December. Probably detected. So we have these reports to move and deal with. So the Audit Committee dealt with a number of items to see in the minutes. These are the items that require a decision. There are 4 policies, or sorry, 3 policies to adopt and 1 to revoke. And then the other item, item 3, sets up the
some of the parameters for our budget discussions in March. Somebody wish to move it as presented? Councillor Evans, you speak to it?
Just very briefly to say that the Audit Committee did spend quite a bit of time on these policies that we have before us tonight at their meeting in December. They touch on a range of things. Some of them are quite technical in nature, particularly given the accounting policies and the nature of the financial financial reporting requirements that we have as well. So there's been quite a bit of discussion had in December. The policies are before us. I think fixed asset financial reporting policy is in our fixed asset register as well. So as we read into the details there, we're talking about how we effectively report on our assets rather than how we deal with them from an engineering perspective. Other than that, no doubt we've all read them and understand them fully.
Entirely, I agree. So I have a second. Councillor Barnett's confident she has. Thank you.
Yes, I'm definitely has my whole brain was actually swimming several last few days reading all of the very comprehensive reports. Yes, but I guess my only one comment is somewhere in local government world, can we not have things that are so long and sort of, do we have to have a lot of all of this stuff? Really?
Is it a question you'd like me to pose to the governance manager by any chance?
No, not, I won't. It's just a rhetorical plea, Anyway.
Yes. Yes, I'm sure the state government that impose these things upon us, Councillor, impose them upon themselves. I'm sure they do. Any further debate? Councillor DeBack.
Look, there's just a bit of clarification as well, just around the sale and disposal of assets. Does that touch on making it easier to sell community assets? I guess not having a financial background, I wasn't quite sure of what that meant.
So if I interpret that question as meaning community land like parks and gardens, but registered on the community assets register,
yes.
There's a whole separate process around that.
Okay.
And so this does in no way alter that. Can't. Yep. Good. Got that right. I wanted to add more. Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Evans, do you wish to sum up?
Good.
Please debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 12.2, East Waste meeting minutes. Someone should move that we receive and note the minutes. Thank you, Councillor Harris. Speak to it.
Yes, I actually read it and discussed it with myself, but the only thing I didn't find in it that I'm just saying that maybe someone can listen to and then might carry on. I was disappointed while I was sitting in the streets reading this, and I seen the East Waste people come and pick up the hard rubbish stuff, some mattress and that, and I seen different council sort of signals or notices on the side. Didn't see ours. But apart from that, I've read the rest. Now I'm talking about the hard rubbish.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Barnett?
Yes, because I also just wanted to pick up on the hard waste collection. Had the first one in our household for many years and with a new contractor. So thought that handled it was spotless. The verge was spotless and everything done all very quickly. But I did notice that we have the fluorescent orange sticker which we are to attach to it to signify that it is legitimate hard waste collection or the collection. So I noticed some others down the street hadn't had theirs collected, and I assume that they didn't use the sticker or didn't apply for a hard waste. And then we had our waste wrapped around the pole, our waste, our warning ribbon thing there. But I'm just wondering, apropos that, do our inspectors actually go and chat to the residents, as these could have been the block of units, and explain to them that, the reason why it wasn't picked up and why it's considered as not a legitimate hard waste company?
Director, are you aware of the process we use immediately before arresting people, putting hard waste out illegally?
Through the chair, no, I'm sorry, I'm not aware, but I'm happy to find out.
Yes, if you could send them, I think would be good, topical every now and again. Yes, thank you. Is there any further debate on this item? If not, Councillor Harris, to sum up.
Thank you.
Please debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item, please reports for decision. Item 13.1, 56.1, application for restaurant liquor licence. Read the report, seen the hours, consistent. Anybody wish to move it as it is? Councillor Baggett, wish to speak to it? Got a seconder? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it? Do I have any further debate? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I'm sure we've all read the information from what the resident lives close by that was sent to all of us. And I'm very pleased that we are still sticking to our policy. And I have some concerns in that about when we have it's most probably less than 6 months changeover now with the new legislation. So I believe that we're having to discuss that at a workshop further, is it? That about what happens as a result of the liquor licensing change legislation, and that what happens to our we are still able to have a policy and still able.
Very good question, Councillor. I'll have the question to the Director.
Through the Chair, we haven't proposed a workshop at this point in time. We are in that 6-month transition, which is now at about the 5-month mark as of yesterday. We provided a memo to elected members, just I guess providing a little bit of detail which we had at hand at around Christmas time. We can provide another, if we think if it requires discussion or if there's any opportunity to provide feedback, we bring it to the workshop. Otherwise, it might have to just come to Council to revoke that policy, which will no longer be valid.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor? No? Any further debate inside? Deputy Mayor.
Just a quick question to the appropriate Director. Can you just remind us whether we're expecting any other liquor licences from that tenancy in the future?
Director.
Through the Chair, thanks for the question. There are 2 tenancies, Sunta and the Sushi Train, which at this point have not applied. I noticed that Sunta opened last week, and I don't believe that's normally serving alcohol, but I would presume that the Sushi Train is likely to sell beers, wines or sakis or something similar. We haven't seen that as yet. So if it was to come shortly, which I would expect that it does, it would come through the handover process that this 56.1 application has occurred in, which would be the same process that we go through, unless it was to fall outside of 6 months, which I can't.
I just think it'd be useful if they do contact Council and talk to us about the liquor licence, that they actually be reminded of all the timing of the other liquor licences that we approved, because I think everyone that's come through, we've approved something that's different to what they applied for, consistent with the development application. So it would just be a good opportunity to be proactive with Sushi Train, or less so with Sunta, if they are going to do that, to just consider what other people have been approved and maybe go through the process.
You're on board, a very consistent.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Train of thought. Any further lane debate? No. Councillor at the back, you said you need to sum up.
Do not.
I wouldn't touch it up. All those in favour? Against? Carried out. Absolutely. Thank you. Item 13.2, the provision of local nuisance and litter control services. You've read the report, obviously. Recommendations, page 49. You wish to move it. Councillor Evans, just speak to it.
Yeah, so I support the motion, but I guess quietly, and also representing City of Prospect on the board of EHA, I'm a little bit disappointed about what EHA's really put forward here, and at the EHA board meeting I expressed my views as such. The local litter and nuisance control or nuisance control is something that, arguably should be done cooperatively. For us to have our own inspectors and do it as City of Prospect, and then the same thing be replicated among our neighbours is in my view, perhaps not the best use of resources. There's a real opportunity for us to share services, share knowledge, share resources, and perhaps get a better result. The model EHA put forward, in my view, didn't represent that, so I was disappointed that that was the view that EHA took. I saw opportunities for them to perhaps cut their cloth slightly differently. But naturally, given that that is the proposal that's come forward, it doesn't make sense for us to look to entertain it any further. But I think the concept of us working with other councils to achieve the provision of these services in a way that's effective and good value for money for our residents as well is something we should continue to further entertain.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Barnes.
Yes, there's Councillor's other representative on the Eastern Health Authority Board. Yes, I guess that we're, certainly at EHA and certainly I think at our ERA regional councils are always looking for opportunities that where we can share, cut costs, share resourcing and present a good model, particularly in with some of the political party views about rate capping and that. So yes, I think what all most probably should be discussed back at EHA and to see if there's any other way that any other cooperative model can come up, if not now, perhaps in the future. But that's for discussion.
Yeah, thank you. Just briefly from the chair, the process of getting further regionalised services, as you'd be aware, those of you who've been here for more than 5 minutes, it's really difficult. What I think's disappointing is we haven't got a regional answer here. I agree with the mover and the seconder. What's really good is we've finally broken through the EHA model to get them to consider doing something more. So we're on a pathway. It's much slower than I would like, but I'm sure it's slower than if not all of you would like. But I do think this is an important threshold that we've crossed. And it is now incumbent upon EHA to, I think, prove that it provides value to service for the services that are core to its existence, and for us to get inside that model and really make sure that it's working for us. And if it is, to progressively keep asking it to bolt on other services that we as councils and the EHA board think is appropriate. So I think it's, whilst a disappointing start to that process, this is actually not the start. This is just one of those, one step back so we can go 2 steps forward. I am going to vote in favour of this, as disappointed as I am, but I just wanted to highlight that there's more to this than what you read in this report. This is actually an important milestone for the Eastern region and EHA in particular. Any more comments or debate on the side? Councillor Back.
More just on the data. So it'd be really interesting across EHA to geolocate the noise complaints and litter complaints. So as councils, we can actually design out some of those issues. So some of them are about amenity. So Devonport Terrace, for example, you get, nuisance issues and dumping issues. I mean, some of that's construction-based at the moment, but it certainly gives elected members across all the different councils a visual of where the problem areas are, and whether that be, sensor technology, light posts or things like that that can pick up movement or noise or whatever, we might be able to, in years to come, track it a bit better.
A comment on the question?
Yes.
And there's further debate. Councillor Evans, to sum up if you need. Includes debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, 13.3, Community Hub Library Innovation Centre, CLIP. Update report. Recommendations on page 93. We wish to move it this current. Deputy Mayor, would you speak to it?
Look, just to say it's a good reflection on the activity that's been going on over the last couple of months, including over the Christmas period. It's all feeling quite straightforward. I think it's part of our very transparent and open process so that our public and our community know exactly what's going on. It is quite straightforward, and I hope people support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, a seconder.
The Mayor and Deputy Mayor and Councillor Tobacco have been attending the executive group meetings, and so I think the staff and project consultants have really been nailing the risks and all that. So I think we've got a very good handle on that side of things and the expected dates. I And I quite like the community engagement, some of the press that happened there. I saw the boards as I came in, so good. And the only other thing is, I don't know if it's up running yet, but I wanted to get, a resident asked me some information, and I wanted to look on the project, click engage the page on our website, and it wasn't working when you actually clicked on the new format page thing. Yeah, so I haven't checked it yet, so I don't know if anybody's checked it lately.
I'll take that as a question, Director.
Yes, through the Chair, thanks for noticing that. We noticed yesterday we went to click on the View Project and it kept coming back to the page where we click on View Project and it came back to the page, so we couldn't get in. Contacted Engagement Hub, the group who runs the Engagement Hub website, and they said they had a national shutdown essentially yesterday in trying to upgrade some software. Everything failed, and they said within 15 minutes it would be rectified. I haven't checked today, but if you were skimming Google now, you might see that it should be working out. Again.
Check. Is that one running? Just going to check by Minute Secretary. Confirmed the garbage truck has been extracted from INEX headquarters. Or was it a different garbage truck? Different truck, different issue, different building. Anyway, sorry, it's software, not a truck.
Different lights.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Councillor. Any further debate on this item? Councillor Back.
Yeah, again, a good report, and it's good to see we're trying to cover all bases. I just wanted to look at the risks. So over the weekend we experienced some extreme weather, and South Australia's continuing to experience extreme weather, and you may or may not be aware that libraries and town halls are often touted as sort of oases for our communities during extreme weather events. My only concern at this point, the concept is a glass box. So though we've had assurances from the architects it's going to perform to how we desire, one, would it be able to function as a habitable space within a blackout situation? And two, have we done any analysis on the running costs for such a type of building?
Through the Chair, to answer the second question first, analysis of the running costs is part of the detailed design process, which is sort of happening now. As you know, concept endorsed, now the design is going through development phase where they'll look at all those things, and sort of managing contractor in coming weeks as well, which will further articulate that. As to whether or not it could be a habitable space during a blackout, it's never been asked of the architects at this point in time. It's never been, I guess, an objective of council. That being said, it's certainly not unreasonable, and I wouldn't expect that it is a problem, to be honest. But we'll certainly take that on board and check it up.
Okay, thank you. Any further, Councillor? Any further debate on that? Well, so Councillor Deputy Mayor, do you wish to sum up at all? That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Yes, carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 13.4, Smart Cities and Suburbs Commonwealth Grant Connected Cities. There is a grant agreement there, and just to let you know, I have discussed with the CEO, there are participating councils, and it's intended that there be back-to-back agreements with those councils, but we are the lead. This is our idea, so just so you're aware of that. Anybody wish to move in its current form? Councillor Love, would you speak to it?
Yes, thank you. So first of all, congratulations to Chris and his team for driving this initiative and achieving a great outcome. There's a few things about this which are sort of about today, and there's a few things about this which are about the future. So I think it's important that we have that in our minds when we consider this sort of project. The things that are good about it today are that it's a starting point, and it demonstrates Prospect's desire to lead our sector in this space. If you look down the page, or page 113, you'll see that in the Intelligent Community Indicators section, it hits 6 out of the 7 indicators. I can't remember which one it didn't hit. So it shows that it significantly responds to that philosophy which we've adopted throughout council. And again, it shows that we don't have to sit back and wait for other people to do the hard work. We can actually
So there are only 6, I was just checking.
I was checking as well. They clarified that, but paying attention. It's good to see. You know, I'm not known for my accuracy. There's a difficult indicator. So anyway, I've almost lost my train of thought. So it shows that we can lead the way here again. And the part of it which is about the future is that anything that's cutting edge like this, we don't always know what the outcomes are going to be. We know what some of the outcomes are going to be and some of the immediate benefits, and look forward to, as this process unfolds, to seeing what those benefits are with regards to better understanding of maintenance of our assets, potentially cost savings, and being smarter with where we allocate our time and resources. But these sorts of projects, when you start talking about Internet of Things and you're connecting up a whole lot of things that previously weren't able to be connected up, it's really amazing what pops up as a sort of consequence of that and as a benefit that you can't always predict at this point in time. So we have to have a little bit of a leap of faith to understand that this is the way the world's going, this type of project and this type of investigation and data collection. And it's great to get it on the ground floor. It potentially could position Prospect as a place where local, national, international people might come and be interested in what we're doing here. And it might also have economic development benefits where people who are in this sort of space start targeting us to road test other new technologies and looking to potentially maybe establish a headquarters for a high-tech industry, which would be perfect for what we're trying to do around here. So there's many facets of this. It's not just about knowing when we should cut the grass. But I'd encourage people to consider the short-term impacts and also the longer-term benefits of this type of project.
Second, Councillor Evans.
Quick question from me and then to speak in favour of it. So can I fire away with my question? Just in terms of reading the report, I didn't see any reference to the availability of data from an open data sense. Do we know or do we have an understanding of who would have access to the data? We mentioned startups in the report. How would they get access to it, and is it something that would be freely available?
Okay, through the Chair. The LoRaWAN network, which we will participate in, is an open data network. So that will have a gateway in each council for the LoRaWAN network, and that will be the open data network that people will simply be able to pop into, and it's a low-powered network rather than a high-bandwidth network. So yes, that network will be available and will be part of the system that we're providing.
Cool, thank you. So I guess just a point of clarification, could I download a spreadsheet of all the data?
You could, yes, you can do that, but it won't be something that you'll actually be able to put a lot of data-intensive images across. So if there's a spreadsheet that require a lot of data to transmit it, you can.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Evans, anything?
Yeah. So I think that. I guess the first point to make here is that we've got nearly 300 grand from the federal government to do something really groundbreaking and that City of Prospect's leading on, and that is a huge success for us. And I'd like to commend the staff, the director in particular, and the directors in particular, and council in particular, for getting the support of other partnering local governments. Earlier on we had a report from EHAL which was around trying to work together as a sector, and I think this is a classic case in point of how we can do that very effectively. So it's great to see this come through, and it's great to see the project from a local government perspective, but then also from a partnership perspective with the university. So giving students and data scientists access to our data to help us understand what's happening. The Internet of Things is huge, and it's something we don't fully understand yet, and it's something that's really hard to explain, particularly to our community. And I remember when we looked at our budget consultation this year, us spending our portion of the money that's required wasn't given a huge amount of support by our community when it was asked, and that's something that we've had to have the will to want to drive this project to keep it moving forward, even in spite of it not being overly popular from a community standpoint. But dare I say that's because the community doesn't understand what it can do. We're talking about delivering services far more effectively. We're talking about the way we design and engineer and structure our parks and our open spaces moving forward, being more tailored to the needs of our community through having better insights into how they're using and consuming them in a way we've never been able to do before. This is exciting on so many levels, and I'm really looking forward to what can come out of it. I'm looking forward to seeing the data and the advice we get, and more importantly, over the next couple of years, how this is going to start to shape how we change our views and our thoughts and our planning for open space. We've got an open space strategy that's in the final stages of being worked through at the moment. Who knows, the next open space strategy may be based entirely on data and entirely on IoT data that we're getting access to. So it's hugely exciting, really looking forward to it. I'd even be surprised if it's something we don't see in Messenger, how exciting this all is. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what might come out.
Thank you. And just to clarify, because I did get excited when you said we got $300,000 out of the Commonwealth.
It's to share.
144,900 out of the Commonwealth, but we have been able to leverage contributions from other councils. So this is a $290,000 project where our bid is 35. Is that right? Numbers right? I think that's terrific.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further debate? About that, and then.
I'd like to congratulate all the efforts of the staff and other elected members that have been pushing encouraging along the Smart Cities or Intelligent Communities initiatives. One of the things, unfortunately, Tallis Evans, that you did mention is that you're patronising to our community and saying they don't understand this technology. We need to do a better job in communicating it much better. And I think this is a prime opportunity where we can actually case studies and invite our communities to participate in programs. It could be a possum watch program, or it could be a spot a beetle program. Using the technology, we've just had the University of the Third Age go from 0 to 50 members in less than 2 weeks. And citizen science is something that people are really interested in. We've also got a lot of expertise within our own communities. We've got people who are high up in universities and government departments. So let's invite them in for them to contribute to this project, because it could probably be bigger than what we think it could be. So can I just ask that we remember our community in all this, and they're part of our journey.
Yeah. Thank you. And
thank you. Look, I think people will be really excited about this. That is correct, that we need to look at ways that we can actually communicate that really well. I just had a couple of detailed questions, if I can. So I noticed that the City of Campbelltown is making a small contribution because they're partnering with City of Burnside in regards to McGill Village. Do we know what McGill Village is? So I presume that that's not going to be a city-wide project, only a small component of it.
Yep, through the Chair, all the City of Campbelltown is doing with the City of Burnside is installing some sensors as part of the McGill Road upgrade. So it's actually just using sensor technology. They wanted to participate, but they didn't put in a large amount of money. So it's actually just sensors either side of McGill Road between Burnside and Campbelltown.
Right. So Burnside is still contributing 35,000, so I presume that means that they're doing a wider component on their side.
Yes. So through the Chair, what Burnside will be doing is a park. They'll be actually doing 2 parks and a small sensor measurement of a people count up and down McGill Road. So everybody will be able to do 2 parks generally, that's what we're counting on, and a use of sensors elsewhere within the city.
Okay, so page 127, attachment 12, under supplementary terms, there's ST 1.1. It talks about all the cities who are contributing. They're all contributing cash that goes towards contribution of the gateways, the sensors, etc. City of Prospect just says cash. It doesn't actually outline what it's going towards. It's just I'm not sure if that's right, wrong, or otherwise. It's just an inconsistency with every other council. I'm just wondering if you can comment on that.
Yes, through the Chair, what it will be provided for is St Helens Park, and we'll be doing the project in St Helens Park and also in Memorial Gardens.
Yeah. And is there a reason why it's not listed the same as the other councils, Director?
No, that's just the way it should be actually filled out the same way.
Yeah, is it because of some of the chapter that says other contributions, just spelling out You think it would be consistent though?
Yeah.
We'll take it on notice.
I'm sure our Commonwealth colleagues would be more than happy to adjust their standard contract. And the other question I had was on page 129, attachment 14, under annual capped amounts. I'm just trying to understand. So my reading of this says in 2017-18, which is now, we get paid $750 of the $145,000. And the next financial year we get the remainder. So presumably that gives us fairly limited scope to start any work until at least July 1. Bearing in mind that our contribution is this financial year, presumably the other councils are also this financial year. I'm just trying to understand why we're getting paid such a small amount in this current year and such a large amount in the next.
Through the chair, I'm not actually across why that $750 is this financial year and the rest is the next financial year. So we could come back to you on that one.
Yeah, I'd just be interested to know because it refers to the capped amounts, and the capped amount obviously for this year is $750, so that buys us nothing.
Yes.
This year. But look, I'm really supportive of this. I was really fortunate to be involved in the launch of the Smart Cities agenda and the census back in the Mayor Coordinator, along with the CEO and Director of Business Innovation attended at Adelaide University. It's just amazing what some of this technology is doing, and they had a bit of a setup at Adelaide Uni where we could see some of the impacts that this makes. It received a bit of media attention at the time, so I agree it'd be great if we had more media attention on this because it's such an exciting project. And it does give us that opportunity to talk to our community about what this means for them, which they might not know about, but certainly I think they'll be really excited to know about it and explain to them in a way that is meaningful to our community, which is part of all our consultation and communication strategy, finding a way to do that in a meaningful way. Yeah, very exciting and well done. I know Chris in particular has put a lot of effort into this, and I think should absolutely be congratulated and pointed out as a big thank you to you for what you've done.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Larwood, wish to sum up?
Not too much more to say. I will pick up on a couple of points that have been made. I agree with Councillor De Backer's point that this is a perfect opportunity to co-opt the community and help us understand what this is all about. And I can see the kind of approach that we take to a degree with our budgeting cycle, where we might go out and speak to the kids in the primary schools and tell them what we're doing and ask them what kind of stuff they think we could capture. So I think once the conversations are opened up, then they can go in multiple directions. I think it's also interesting to consider how we can publicise and promote this broadly throughout not only our local community but through other avenues and leverage the benefit that we can get from it from a brand point of view, which I think is a really important part of this whole process. I think that it's fantastic that we've connected and landed a strong relationship with this project with the tertiary education sector, and I think it opens up opportunities to position ourselves to be attractive for future different projects. A couple of questions which I'm not looking for an answer now, but whilst there are lots of there's things we don't know that we might start gathering information about, there's some things that we're looking for up front. So I'm interested to know or to see the specific targets for information we're capturing, or what decisions it allows us to make, and then what sort of benefit or saving that's provided us with. So I don't know whether we have the chance to benchmark certain aspects of expenditure or utilisation and then report on that on a 6-monthly or annual basis, so we can get a bit of a sense as to how valuable this type of project is. I think that's a question that we can discuss, or maybe hand it over to the appropriate director, but I think that is important. I think we need to get a bit of a baseline for where we're at now with regards to these things. And that's pretty much all. The last thing was the important thing about capturing that information is ideally we would expand this program in the future if it proved to be beneficial. So if we know where we're starting from and we can prove through data and facts and information that it has delivered these benefits, then that's going to be very useful to us in the future to expand the program out. So that's pretty much all.
Okay, thank you. Concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against is carried unanimously. Thank you. Congratulations everybody and best wishes as we go forward. The next item, Main North Road Concept Plan, recommendation on page 166, extensive report. Attorney Unit, this motion is about getting the design work undertaken on the first stage. Deputy Mayor, very brave Deputy Mayor, but look at it, not sure why.
Look, I will support it. I'll be interested to hear what my fellow elected members have to say about this. It really does, this report culminates a whole range of conversations we've been having for a long time on Main North Road. I agree with the sentiment expressed in it. I don't necessarily agree with everything that's in the plan, but that's to the extent that I think so everyone will agree with everything that's in everything in all the plans that we've had. But for me, I think it's quite exciting to look at some opportunities to do some trials along Main North Road to try and realise our vision that we've been doing for a long time. It's the first time we've actually had this documented in a way that we can actually tangibly go and talk to our community about this and people to actually see what we're talking about and the future of what we see Main North Road being. I think there are some challenges in this, some of the other projects we talked about tonight about creating expectations about how quickly we can do things, how often we can do things, and how extensively we can do things. But it's a great starting point. So I'll be interested in hearing what other communities have to say about this, but I'm certainly supportive of in principle and support the motion.
Thank you. Have a second. Councillor Stan.
I agree with Deputy Mayor Groot on that. The only thing I think that this does very tangibly is set some cohesion. The one thing about Main North Road is it's a disparate group of businesses who are all trying to get their own, all trying to be as visible as possible. And what happens is you end up with a whole lot of Me Too sort of designs, and or look at me, look at me, look at me. And what this does, it sets up the design, the black and the wood. It sets up a cohesion that you know you're travelling down a single street. It's not just looking at different businesses. And I think that's what's needed down there, just to give it a bit of aesthetic appeal and, you know, spruce it up a bit. And I think this would be fantastic.
Councillor Barnett.
Yes, very supportive of the thrust of the report. Looks like we, some of our things that we would like to have done with the turns and things, you know, Deputy may not be in favour, but I say, well, that's not stopped us at Hospital Council, has it? So you can push things. Just wanting to, I am assuming that elected members and directors have read the very comprehensive comments from Faye Patterson, the Chair of Basketball Institute of SA, that came through. And I believe there just summarised her and made some dot points, but I won't go through them all now. But one other point I think that Faye made was about involving Walking SA in as another sector to consult. As it involves not only, you know, the basketball and vehicles and whatever, but also pedestrian activity. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're going to include comments from the FISA and involve Walking SA in our deliberations.
I'd like to really turn it into a question. As in, will we pick up those comments and can we involve them? Yeah. And just put that to the director.
Yeah, so that is my question.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Very good question.
Through the Chair, yes, we did receive the same email from Faye Patterson this afternoon, a very positive letter, and we're happy to work with her and her organisation as well as Walking SA in the future in developing the detailed plans.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, anything further? No. Councillor Lowry.
In a similar vein, and given that we've got a workshop item coming up in a few months' time regarding Prospect being cycle friendly, like Councillor Barnett, my head was spinning reading 390 pages several times over. Actually, I read all those pages, and I remember there was some questions around the suitability of Main North Road as a bicycle thoroughfare, and the suggestion that Prospect Road was a better option, and the commentary was that that's not necessarily the case. And so I think that whatever we do, I'd hope that we've got our ears pricked up with regards to the impact from a cycling perspective, so that whatever we start doing from the outset, we don't go down the wrong path and have to redo it once a different outcome becomes obvious. Second point, and being an expert in the spelling of all the names of the streets and avenues and roads in Prospect, I would like to note that I don't believe the word Wilcox is spelled correctly in the report. I, having lived on the street for quite a few years. Oh, up there. Yes, I was just looking at the report here. So, oh, that's good. That's been noted. So, there we go.
Excellent speech.
The CEO is just slightly ahead of you, and she's now thinking how lucky
Yeah, it should be.
Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Really briefly, appreciate all the work that's gone into this report. The experience has shown us that if we build the infrastructure, some change will occur. It's really important that we have things like this on the table, things inside our heads, out there, so the community can see, but more importantly, so that people who can instigate the change, the developers, etc., can see what the vision is and where we go from there. Budgets are always difficult, but this is very exciting, and let's keep our fingers crossed that something good will come out of this. And really looking forward to the report from Sandy Ricks and Director at next council meeting, and see how the two marry up, and it's an exciting future for Main North Road.
Thank you. Further debate. Councillor Harris.
Stick in the mud. Look, I'd like to see something happen to Main North Road, and generally speaking, we've got some of those ideas here, and we move along with them, and not just Main North Road. In this bundle we're talking about does follow the Main North East Road, Nottage Terrace, and those sort of ones. I did listen over the other side there about bicycles and riding them down in conjunction with these roads, and I think that comes a big concern of how we deal with that on a main road. But my real thing that I'm not happy with and don't support, so I'm not even sure how I end up, is the Wilcox Kentore business. I had asked, because there's only 3 places, 2 car yards and a hospital or nursing home that's there, and I couldn't see the benefit of our money using that area as an example, because of existing building, existing trees, existing car yards, and I believe, and I'm not even sure if we're doing it, but there's a footpath now being built in Wilcox, which was bitumen, now going to paving, but I don't think we're actually doing that. Maybe the car yard's doing it. I'm not sure. I only noticed it today or yesterday, but that is my big concern, using that. If that's the hope that that last speaker sort of said, that we give some design and looking for people and they say, oh, this is what can be done, we'll do something. I can't see how we've got the hospital there that have already got their 5 trees in, so we can't fit any more there. I do take on board these cones that we can build and all those things, but there's needs to have paving there, because it's only got bitumen. You've got a car yard on the corner, and we didn't get a report from what they felt about it. And the same with the other car yard that, as you know, is building one, which will just be cars in the front and 2 stories at the back. Good, but that's what's holding me back. Doing something in that area, I'm assuming on one side of the road, that area, to me, we're not going to be able to show anything we can do to make someone else excited to change a whole area, unless we build something on the road, and I know we can't build on the road. So unfortunately I don't support it as it is.
Thank you. I'll just speak briefly from the chair. Partially to see if I can bring Councillor Harris on board. I think the report's really extensive. We've discussed this item a lot. We know this is quite a complex environment. We thought Churchill Road was hard until we struck Prospect Road, and we thought that was immensely difficult, and now we understand that Main North Road probably is the most complex of the lot because there's not a lot to play with. And I think it's a credit to the staff to pull together this report with so much detail to guide our thinking in the detailed design sense as we go forward. I'm really pleased that the Bicycle Institute have written to us. I think in the main their commentary is very appreciative of the attention we're paying to the detail and to supporting cycling. I didn't realise, but they've pointed out that our section of Main North Road north of Scotty's, where we control both sides, has bike lanes or has provision for. The north and south of it, it's not so friendly. So we may have to do some work to try and help our northern sister council realise what they can do to contribute, because of course we want to pick up more cyclists than just those south of Regency. And we are already working with the town of Walkerville in how to look at planning and transport and road treatment south of Scotty's Motel, because of course they control the east side. We're working with Adelaide City Council, City of Adelaide are now, to work out how to get bikes safely across the parklands on Main North Road, because at the moment it's a rubble goat track pretty much either side of the road carriageway. So we've got some hostility around bikes north and south of our section of Main North Road, and I think them pointing that out really, I guess, not just encourages but challenges us to think about it as a network problem and to work with neighbours to get that resolved. Otherwise, what's the point of riding from North Park to Scotty's Motel? We need to ride home again. Most people don't want to do that. They want to go to work or to school or whatever. And some of the other stuff I've got around the detail I think is really interesting feedback, and I'm happy to take it on board. Great to hear the Director intends to engage with them. The other aspect I thought was interesting was their commentary and our work around east-west connectivity. I think they're, Bicycle Institute, are really reinforcing us to do more work in that. What I'm disappointed about is that the comprehensive report that we've got isn't more conclusive about the right-hand turn issue, which some of us have certainly expressed some concern about. It does indicate that there's good east-west connectivity for those who want to travel across the city, but the right-hand turn permeability is quite challenged and difficult to resolve and difficult to prove, because no one really can do it now, because if you turn right on Main North Road now during peak, you'd be, well, let's just say that's quite a difficult manoeuvre across two lanes into two lanes. Out of peak, maybe some people are doing it, but the numbers are low, which looks like the evidence of people wanting to do it is low. So we have to work really hard to prove a business case to get that thinking to change. And that work is going to guide that thinking, even though it doesn't have conclusions right now for us. It's clear that that pathway isn't clear, and we need to do a lot more work around it. Which leads me to the third part of what I want to say, which is why this precinct, over all the other things we can do on this road, why this precinct? And I think Councillor Harris has pointed out, for goodness sakes, you've got two coyotes and a nursing home one side, why would you bother? The other side is more complex. But the real reason is this precinct is that this is the easiest to do because it's not challenged by any of those east-west right-hand turn crossing solutions. To do the precinct north, we've got St John's Wood Park. And our park strategy is going to guide our thinking around whether we should even have that park, or if we have it, what we do with it. And that would influence the streetscaping on Main North Road at that point. We haven't made that decision yet, so we're not ready to do that bit. Just north, of course, is Thomas Street, where some have talked about having traffic with intersection there. So we have to wait for that resolution before we do that bit. North of that is the trambar style. We're waiting on the solution to that before we decide what the street should look like. North of that is the Edgeworth-Percy Street, 3rd Avenue intersection, where that might be another right-hand turn. So we've got to resolve those issues before we can confidently bed down the Main North Road streetscape. South of this precinct is immediately the Kinter Avenue pedestrian crossing, which may be relocated as part of resolving something else. And if you go further south, you've got the same issue at Harding Pulse with Millman, where you might be advocating for a right-hand turn, and therefore we shouldn't spend our money there first, and so on and so forth. So I think this precinct we concluded in our workshop wasn't probably the one with the most impact, but it was the one that we could start with the least obstacles. And if we can get tree species and treatments that satisfy the car yards, the 2 car yards, we will have proven the principle which can roll that along the entire length of the street, because the car yards would be the most challenging to our tree species selection. And we need to solve that problem as part of the streetscape. So in effect, it's not just the only precinct that has the least obstacles, it's probably the best one for us to give a go at. It's next to our oval, nice east-west Burwood oval connector, and it will resolve by consultation engagement the tree species and planting and treatment adjacent to those car yards which are so reliant on passing trade. So I hope Councillor Harris helped to clarify why I think it is the precinct we agreed upon and why I think we're on the right path here. And I really look forward to the next stage, detailed consultation and design phase. And our engagement, as painful as that might be on occasions, in that process, because this is going to be hard work. Thank you. And any further debate? Deputy Mayor, Mr. Summer?
We'll just say one or two things. One is we need to remember what recommendations is obviously endorsing this as a strategic direction, but also looking at further design work. So we'll have lots of opportunity to input into what that design looks like and to influence it. I think it's an important point. But the other one for me is by the end of March we're going to have some conversations around traffic management and traffic flow connection east, west, north and south. As per the resolution late last year. And so I would just probably flag that what we've got here will need to be sympathetic to whatever decisions we'll make as part of that process. And so it might be that we need to come back and make some adjustments to some of those conversations we're having, whether right-hand turns, U-turns, whatever it might be, as a result of those other conversations, which I'm hopeful will come up with some fairly creative and different solutions to traffic management issues in Prospect. So overall, I really endorse this strategic directions before us now, and the support of elected members and all of those in their chair. Shall I keep talking?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I'm...
Just sit down.
So I endorse the motion too.
Yeah, thank you. That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? It is carried. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. 13.6, second budget review on page 323. Anybody wish to move it in its current form? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it?
No, not really.
Sorry, no.
I was going to get up and then I thought,
do I have a second?
Brace yourself.
Deputy Mayor, wish to speak to it? Any further debate? That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item 13.7, Eastern Health Authority First Budget Review 17-18. Recommendations on page 349. Anybody wish to move it in its current form? Councillor Evans, wish to speak to it?
Not really, no.
Seconder, Councillor Harris, wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? It is carried unanimously. Thank you. 13.8, strengthening local government options for SA councils. Recommendation on page 366. Feedback to the LGA, obviously will be consolidated with other councils. Anybody wish to move it in its current form? Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it? No, okay, so I have a seconder. Deputy Mayor, wish to speak to it? Any further debate? All those in favour? Yes, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 15.1. Sorry, there is a... technically we have a protocol that says if anybody wishes to withdraw this item, we will debate it. Does anybody wish to withdraw this item? No, that being the case, anybody wish to move it? Councillor Deputy Mayor, group, and Councillor Barnett as seconder. All those in favour? Against? It is carried. Now, thank you. Council diary, there's a whole pile of things there, mostly around the twilight sessions. Twilight concerts are gone. We don't have concerts anymore, we have sessions. Is that where we can bring session ale? That's a rhetorical question. And the first gallery exhibition is also going to be happening in February. So a busy month for us in our event season. Item 17, general business of an urgent nature.
I just wanted to say how much I thoroughly enjoyed the street party, the terrific street party, and I just wanted to put forward a motion offering our congratulations and thanks to staff. So I'll just hand that to Jess. Jess, sorry. Is that all right?
Absolutely, yes. Got it written down. With great joy, I allow you to give your written motion to.
I'll need to wait for it to time what word for it.
Then we'll debate whether it's an urgent motion.
Urgent?
You're right, Councillor. I'll need to see leave of the meeting for your urgent motion. Councillor Lee, let's just have a reading. That is your motion?
There's no motion.
I now seek leave of the meeting to accept that motion on the agenda tonight. All those in favour of accepting the motion? Against? Is thus accepted. With 2/3 majority, I think I'm required to have, or is it a simple majority? I have this pop up. We'll get back to you on that one. We had both, so that's okay. Councillor Lee, you should speak to.
Just very briefly, I think the motion speaks for itself, but we hear a lot of talk about the street party, we debate about the cost of the street party, etc., and we go off and we have a very lovely time in the VIP enclosure with the street party for an hour, and then we go off and do our various things. But behind the scenes is months and months and months of extraordinary hard work. You see the staff working very hard on the night, but you can also see how tired they are, absolutely exhausted. And this is something that they've pulled off with ease. Our community loves it. The Tua Down Under events people love it, and I'm assuming people across Adelaide love it, because I know that there are people that I knew from outside our city that came to the event because they've heard it's absolutely fantastic. So just really well done to everybody involved, particularly to Nathan's team, Caroline and Brendan and everybody else. They're just a couple of names. It's huge. But thank you very much to them. It is much appreciated by us and much appreciated by the community. Very well done.
Councillor Larwood, speak to it.
Just to echo the sentiments of the councillor Lee, I think it was the feedback I got is that it's the best one that people have been to, and it was almost impossible to make your way down the street at around 8:30, 9 o'clock. The crowd was so packed, and I think some of the statistics that represented the fact that lots of people from the local area came means that we're spending money on something which local people are finding benefit and participating in and getting some value for money out of, and I look forward to the planning which will go into next year's street party, hopefully if the budget gets up.
Further debate? Councillor Barnett?
Yes, I certainly support the sentiment behind the motion, but I just have an issue with if this is actually urgent business. I mean, we have no place on our agenda where we can have a comment like that. So apart from us, sending an email around to everybody, which Amelia did. Yes, but so I'm not against the motion per se because of its the message. But just the fact that we only have general business, urgent business, and I understand that this is because under the Government Act that on an agenda we're supposed to give notice to the members of the public of what business is, so that's why we don't go the other way. But I'm just wondering, through you, Mr Mayor, or elected members or staff, have any ideas how else we can communicate such things at a council meeting?
Thank you. And I know that actually not just has to be urgent, it has to be of a genuinely urgent nature. And I obviously we're taking a little bit of liberties, and I thank you members for indulging that. CEO, can you respond to that question? Is there another way to do it, or should Councillor Lee have anticipated this and put a motion on notice, which seems to lack spontaneity?
Thank you very much for the question, Mayor. Look, I have sympathy and concur with your comments in relation to being able to raise items of this nature. The meeting regulations, I've been having a look at those, and they are quite restrictive in terms of spontaneous motions, rightly because of how you've indicated, Councillor Barnett, that the public have a right to understand what the council will be debating at any one meeting. Short of asking a question for a response, we certainly need to take some guidance, I think, in terms of how best you'd like to deal with these things. But I will have a look at the meeting protocols and whether we can vary that in terms of taking motions of this nature, which may or may not actually have a significant impact on how the community would view motions of this type. Because clearly we don't want to have motions being brought to the meeting that impact significantly on the community, but in this case I think it's very relevant that you record your sentiments. The staff certainly appreciate that, and we'll have a look at how best to deal with it in the future.
Because, you know, I have taken interest in our agendas and previously, and looked at I think just about most of the other 69 councils' agendas over the past few years, you know, but and I think it's mainly the our country councils, but they do have a section there whereby elected members are able to provide you know, like verbal reports of what they've been doing, and I think that is one thing that is completely and utterly missing from us, that we should also be allowed to have an opportunity to briefly report what we've been doing in the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's been guided to item 60 again, which is verbal reports from council reps, but it is about reps. So unless you're a rep for something on a community organisation, then it's not as free as what Councillor Barnett is referring to. But look, I might leave that with the CEO and I to think about. There are some other practices that other councils use, which I think are more engaging, but they have their shortcomings as well. So we have to be careful. We could trial things like we did before. We're open and able to do that. Thank you. Just from the chair, in terms of the motion, I just want to thank Councillor Lee for putting that forward. I thought it was a really well-run night. I thought, once again, how much money we spend on fencing and security guards that we just don't need. But of course, you know, when they're there, you don't need them. When you don't have them, you probably end up needing them. Got no hope. But the mood of the crowd was fantastic. You know, it's great wandering amongst the whole local people who are really genuinely happy and proud of their city. The number of people that stopped me to say how thankful they were, how great it was, how really they couldn't believe this was happening in their own backyard. I mean, we've done this 7 times, but they are still amazed at how their community can put on a really good street party that's genuinely fun for people to be involved in. And the sentiment was incredibly positive on the night. I had 2 complaints, because they of course come to me like I'm some sort of magnet for those things too. And one of them was we had too many children in the Loopy Kids ride. So it was, the middle ride did have 80 kids in it. That was a little, perhaps many, but a complaint about having too many children, I'll take that any day, because that's a great outcome for us to have at anything we do. And the other complaint was from someone who said they weren't attending and didn't attend. So I don't put much credence in that one because I didn't see anything firsthand. So, and that was a bit tongue-in-cheek. But other than that, feedback, as I say, was incredibly positive. We'll do all the feedback with the traders to make sure that, you know, because we shut their road down and we transform their lives for at least one day, so we'll get their feedback and make sure that we understand it. And from what I can tell, that was all very, very, very good. The layout was entirely different to previous years, and I know you would appreciate that. And for one, I want to say I'm really happy to see the Loopy Kids ride back in quite a large format. I thought the hay bales were a great use, same as at the previous fair. I thought they worked really well for the Lucky Kids ride and then for impromptu seating afterwards. And I thought the change in entertainment and the music was great. And I love the way we play with something different every year, just try something out. So I thought it makes, I'm sure the same with you, it makes me tremendously proud to think that our team can do something like that and that it works well for people of all ages. That's the bit I really, really love about it. I did go to other functions during the week to look at how they do things, and I have to say I'm not criticising them in any way, but I became even more comfortable with what we do for our community, because I think that's what our job is to respond to where our people are at. And we have an enormous number of kids that live in this community and young families, and I think our team responds to that brief incredibly well. So I'm very happy to endorse the motion. Thank you once again, Councillor. Any further debate? Councillor Lee, Deputy Mayor.
Just very briefly, I want to also give my thanks, and I do that because I want to just refer to a comment that was made earlier about opportunities on the agenda to speak to issues like this. So it's been raised in this, so I feel comfortable to talk about it. Just the one that goes to spontaneity and making sure that we know what we're talking about. We do have questions for that notice, which provides opportunity to ask any question on any topic that we give no notice at all to the public. So having the capacity to actually ask something at the end of the agenda in a similar way, which is spontaneous, to use those words, I think is entirely consistent with that question to that notice. So I think having that opportunity both ends of the agenda is quite a good idea. And Councillor Barnett for her views on that. But just going back to Terrific Prospect, again, similar views, 18,000 people can't be wrong. It was a fantastic event. I think we still have this problem, which is a good problem to have, which is that pedestrian traffic, and Councillor Lara picked that up about how do you get from one end to another without getting too squashed. I don't know how you deal with that on a narrow road with lots of activity going on. I also noticed one marquee that whoever had booked it didn't turn up, which is I thought a bit disappointing, but I'm sure that will come out in the debrief. I won't say the number it is, but I'll have to tell you afterwards which number it was, as I noticed as I was walking through. But fantastic event. I saw Carolyn at 6:15 in the morning on my walk down Prospect Road. She was preparing, getting things ready, and I saw her as I left at about 10 o'clock, and she was still going. So just wanted not to single people out, but I thought that's worth singling out for her. She obviously had a very good day, as did a lot of people, but I know that she carries a lot of weight on her shoulders for this event. So thank you, well done, fantastic event.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Lee, we should sum up.
No, just to say that whoever organised the weather this year, you pretty much got it down spot. So the best
I appreciate that.
The best event ever. So thank you very much, everyone.
Please debate was in favour. Against is carried out. Thank you. Any other items of a genuinely urgent nature? Sure. Yeah, well, okay. All right. Councillor Larwood. Kept us.
I couldn't find a definition of genuinely urgent, so I'll have a go. I noticed that the stretch on Prospect Road between Victoria Street and Alexandra Street, where the footpath has been widened, the work's been finished there, but I'd also like to report the disappearance of a bicycle lane. I'm not sure if anyone's seen that bicycle lane loitering somewhere on the side street or in a backyard, but it's completely disappeared, and I think it's created a really unsafe situation where cyclists and car drivers alike have no idea what to do there, and I'm wondering when that cycling lane is going to be reinstated.
It sounds like a question. You're able to raise that of a genuinely urgent nature.
Urgent.
Who's trying to find it?
Somebody might be.
So instead of asking under that area, I now need to seek leave and need to have this question considered by the Director of the State meeting. All those in favour of considering the question? Against? Even Councillor Barnett's on board. You have convinced us, Councillor Larwood. Director, will you please answer the question? The person says there might be a motion to anyone.
Through the chair, I don't answer that. Sorry, I'm happy to follow it up and get back to you. Thank you.
Director, I understand that whilst it looks like it's finished, the line marking is not finished.
Right. It's not complete yet. I'm happy to provide a plan and find out what the status of the bike plan is.
Yeah, definitely one of the design.
Is it?
Sorry, with Councillor Larwood. Councillor Larwood, sorry, member of the gallery. Heather, thank you. Councillor Larwood, Director's answered the question but not provided an answer on timing and the line marking.
Through the chair, if they're waiting for us to complete our works, then they'll come through and resheet the road. Following that, we'll commence the line marking into the timing. I'm not sure. I'm happy to take that on notice and get back to you.
Thank you, Councillor. Do you feel the need to move a motion to do something, or are you happy to wait for that information?
I'm personally happy to wait for the information, yeah.
Thank you. Any further tests? Oh, joy. No, all right. Okay. Confidential lines are nil. Meeting is closed at, you go another minute, make around 9 o'clock, I'll say now. Thank you, everybody, for coming along. Business. And sorry to interrupt you, that we just had a proceeding matter there to deal with.